Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. The tides have changed, and now we have a flipped Senate. In addition to losing the Senate, we're going to see a whole mix up with regard to who the chairman of all the different committees and so forth are out there. The one specific that I'm looking at, obviously, is the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. Now, with the Senate being flipped, that's going to happen no matter what. But the kind of the second wave of that is that the current chairman, who is Chairman Tester, Senator Tester, has also lost his race and is no longer a senator. So now we have a Veterans Affairs Committee chairman who has been elected out of office, and the Senate has also flipped. So a couple different things there. Overall, just a quick note, I think Senator Tester, for veteran-specific issues, I think he did a pretty good job. I was happy to see him push on several different aspects that could have just been under the radar, and a lot of folks would not have known. So I am overall satisfied with his efforts. So moving forward, I'm excited to see who the new chairman will be for the Veterans Committee. Are they going to just bump up Senator Moran into that role? It would be my guess, but I'm not sure. So we'll see what happens there. But also, let's talk about who beat out Senator Tester over in Montana. With that, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. If you want to consider being a member, please consider that. It does help out the channel, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you. All right, so the Veterans Affairs Committee chairman falls to Navy SEAL veteran in key Senate race. So a veteran beat out Senator Tester. So I'm always happy to see veterans in office. I mean, look, veterans issues overall should just be bipartisan, and just maybe you're just a little bit of argument on the fine tuning of things, but having veterans in place regardless is a good thing in my opinion. All right, so let's move on. Republican Navy SEAL veteran Tim Sheehy defeated Democratic Senate Veterans Affairs Committee Chairman John Tester in Tuesday's Senate race in Montana, if you were not aware. Sheehy's victory over the three-term incumbent pads the majority Republicans will have in the Senate in the next session of Congress, and potentially shakes up military and veterans policy going forward as one of the upper chamber's most prominent Democratic voices on those issues leaves. All right, so this is on military.com, which is where I found this. It just came out November 6th. Obviously, the election just happened, and the final numbers are coming in for the House and Senate stuff. So let's move on. There's a quotation here. I've been serving our country since I was 18 because when our country calls, you must answer. And I'm incredibly honored by your support and the trust you've placed in me to fight for you and serve Montana as your next U.S. Senator. Sheehy posts on social media Wednesday, a few hours after the Associated Press called the race for him. And as I'm reading this, I'm actually thinking about a buddy of mine who moved out to Montana, who was in the Navy, in fact, got injured through BUDS, which is probably the story for a lot of folks that go through that process. So little side note. Now I gotta reach out to him and ask him what's going on. All right. So shout out to you, Jeff. All right. Let's move on. So I've been serving our country since I was 18. Okay, I read that. With Tester, a leading voice on veteran policy in the Senate, and Sheehy's status as a veteran himself, veterans issues played a key role in their campaigns as both candidates searched for an edge in the race seen as vital to which party would control the Senate next year. So yes, it was a key Senate race. Obviously, the Senate was very close anyway. But it's funny that overall Montana has a small number of veterans compared to these other states. So it's just interesting that that's a key role. Moving on, Montana has the third highest, though, veterans population per capita in the country. Oh, so that's good. So 9% of the state's adults, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, Sheehy was winning by about 8.6 with the 93% of the votes counted on Wednesday afternoon, according to the AP. Sheehy's campaign, I want to read through this because I'm wondering if there's any kind of glimpses of what we could potentially see from a legislative perspective for veteran stuff. He campaigned on it, it sounds like, so that's a good thing. For those that are in Montana, love to hear your thoughts. Anytime we get new blood into the system, we need to hold them accountable to the promises that they made us, especially on the veteran side, right? So Sheehy's campaign materials prominently featured references to him being a SEAL, and he regularly mentioned his military service in his campaign ads and speeches, but aspects of his military record also came under question over the course of the campaign, particularly his account of getting shot in the arm in Afghanistan. While Sheehy said in campaign speeches and in a memoir that he was shot in Afghanistan, the Washington Post uncovered earlier this year that he told a National Park Service ranger in 2015 that he accidentally shot himself when his gun dropped on the ground during a visit to Glacier National Park. I don't know. I'm not here to do this or that. It's just, this is in military.com's thing. Just another side note. After the Post reporting, Sheehy maintained that he injured himself in a fall, that he lied to the park ranger when the old bullet wound was discovered. Because the Afghanistan shooting was friendly fire from a fellow SEAL, and he was worried disclosing that could instigate a military investigation, even though he had already retired from active duty at the time. As Tuesday's election drew closer and Sheehy pulled ahead in the polls, the park ranger and SEAL, so that kind of explains a little bit of the why would a park ranger stuff be going on. All right, so anyway, so I guess he was a park ranger too, with whom Sheehy served. I'm all messed up. As Tuesday's election drew closer and Sheehy pulled ahead in the polls, the park ranger and a SEAL with whom Sheehy served came forward to dispute Sheehy's account of the record, pressed in an interview over the weekend on the inconsistencies in his story. Sheehy said there are no medical records that would support his account of being shot in Afghanistan, and also suggested it was an Afghan ally who shot him, not a fellow SEAL. Meanwhile, Tester, throughout the campaign, cited his accomplishments as chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, including helping shepherd the sweeping toxic exposure legislation known as the PACT Act into law. In addition to leading the Veterans Affairs Committee, Tester has been the chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee Defense Subpanel for the last 3 years. In that job, he has been a strong supporter of bulking up the Pentagon budget beyond the Biden administration's request. But Tester's record on veterans and military issues and his personal brand as a moderate were not enough to save his seat in a red wave that also saw former President Donald Trump sweep back into the presidency. Quotation here, "Look, I'm very, very blessed," Tester said after his defeat, according to the AP. "I had a great 18 years in the United States Senate. I've met some incredible people along the way, and I had the opportunity to do some great things to help move this state forward, move the country forward." And he did do some great things for his state with regard to veteran stuff. Like I don't really know anything else that he's done because I don't pay attention to that. It's not my state, and all I'm worried about here is veteran stuff. So he did champion his state well. He got funding in for the VA in his state, additional funding for resources, clinic type stuff. And that brings up a side point here that we, in our individual states, if we need a better X within the VA locally, have that conversation with your legislators. Push on them. The more of us that do it, the better off we will be in those areas. Let's say that you have a debilitated building structure, clinic. Your VA clinic is just in shambles. Half of it you can't even use, so they just walled it up and they're functioning out of the other half. Have those conversations. Reach out to your congressional members. Let them know that this is ridiculous and that the funding needs to come here to fix this problem. The more of you that do that, the more likely it'll happen. We cannot rely on the entities themselves to lobby for themselves, right? The VA, especially at the local level, is not going to do a very good job of lobbying to the congressional office for whatever they need. That's us, right? If you go in there, you see it, you need to call it out and let your legislator know. Anyway, with that, thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. Remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.